Welcome to CCRPG, where we open up our virtual table and play games with some good friends. I'm Bob, and I'll be running Lancer, an RPG by Miguel Lopez and Tom Parkinson-Morgan. You can find it at Massive Press on itch.io. In our last session, we saw the DBC Crew, with the assistance of the Noblesse Affair, take control of the Iridium alum mine from its automated defenders. Now, Concern and Valet busy themselves with preparing the mine for detonation. COMET, CHIMERA, and ORION regroup after the fight to plan next steps while helping their allies. Meanwhile, Rock speeds back to the mining camp to pick up the engineer Nosei Tolerant, hoping to set another nasty surprise in Flus Delta before MantiCorp's arrival. And this is going to pick back up basically right where we left you guys off last time. Rock, you've already kind of sped away. You're heading to the mining camp to pick up your passenger slash co-conspirator from the civilian group. And the rest of you are still back with Concern and Valet as of right now. So I'm going to ask you guys right now at the beginning here, what are you doing?
Well, Dyne is gonna help out and clean up after the battle a little, make sure everyone is okay, and then probably follow after Rock, because they're gonna group up and head off to the city, and Dyne is gonna split off to see Torsay when he gets there.
Gotcha. So you're going to rendezvous with Rock after he stops at the mining camp so that you could head in the same general direction together.
Yep.
So, Don, you're going to tell Torsay about our plan.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good. Yeah, we wanted to contact her on the radio, but I think we decided that would be risky if it got intercepted, communique. So, cool.
And you also have the UMDs.
UMDs. Mm-hmm. Oh, right, the UMDs. Right. We just need a PSP to access the data. So can I kind of clean up the battle scene a little bit? So part of our plan is well, okay, never mind. I was going to say part of the plan is we want to make it look like we never fought there, but that's not true. We just want to make it look like we fought there, but we're repelled. Mine. Yeah,
like
exactly.
An attempt was made.
Yeah. So if anything, we want evidence of a battle there, but we just don't want it to seem like we actually got access to the mine. And afterwards, we're going to reactivate the turrets. So here's a question: How can we remotely reactivate the turrets? Because we don't want to activate it and have them start attacking us again. Could I look into that?
Yeah, totally. That's something you can start investigating.
Okay.
How do you want to do that?
I want to see if there's a terminal or something that I can gain access to, and see if there's like a central control where like all the turrets are controlled from.
Knowing Astro, he just has to ask really nice and say,
yeah,
thank you.
Just have to charm them.
Okay, so where are you going to look for this?
Well, so we're within the boundaries of the mine now. So just for my visualization, we kind of like went through a wall, right? Or we got inside a wall, and then the mine itself, the entrance to the mine is within the walls, kind of like a fortress with the entrance inside.
No, not quite. It's more like it was on a raised area. So basically, you are approaching the mine from below. Like, remember, this is a very mountainous region, and the mine is cut back into the hills, but the area leading to the front of the mine is a completely flat area. So you basically were approaching it from below, and what I had told you before you started the fight was there's a ridge ahead of you. Over this ridge is the mine. Like, as soon as you crest this ridge, you're going to be in sight of the turrets. So combat starts as soon as you step over this ridge.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you were on a big flat area, but like they didn't have targeting on you until you had gone up enough that you would show up.
Okay, well, I'll start. So going into the mine, I'll start by following the wires to where the power generator is, and then I'll see if there's anything like a server room or some sort of like a terminal or mainframe that I can access that's around that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So you basically kind of easily find where the power systems are. They are the same large generators that I described for Rock when he got in here before to shut them down. They are just big power generators. There's like nothing more to them than that. It's like within this first large opened area in the mine, and you can tell most of the mining equipment, the lights for the mine, everything kind of cables off of this point. As you kind of get further into the mine, you can see from where you are kind of the opening to the area that's kind of like the reverse ziggurat, like built down into the ground. And you can see, because right now the mines are dark, because the only thing you have lighting your way is the lighting on your mech. You kind of wander into the mines, and it's very much like driving through a tunnel in the car, right? Like that has no lights in it. It's just your headlamps that's illuminating everything, because the only reason everything is not shooting you right now is because all the power's been cut. So you find your way to the generators, and in the distance you can see the room that has the reverse ziggurat, because you can see kind of like the little firefly like glow of your other two allies who have gone further in that direction. You're just catching some of the bouncing beams of light coming back in your direction from them using their lights to kind of find their way to set their detonators.
Okay, gotcha. Can I identify? Am I able to identify like which wires would lead, which cables would lead to the turrets? And maybe because I'd like to see if it's possible to turn the generators back on so we can turn the lights back on, basically. But first, detach the connection to the turrets.
So what I'll say is it only takes you time. Like there's no role here to determine that. It is something that if you just look at it and puzzle it out, it's not hard to figure. You see the lines that kind of run the power cabling for the lamps and various equipment that kind of, snakes its way down into the mine and back towards the entrance a little bit. And it's very obvious that there are some kind of high capacity wires that kind of lead up and through some kind of drilled holes into the side of the cave that you suspect lead to powering large scale machinery outside. Okay,
so I'll detach those wires that
So how do you do that? Because these are very much hardwired into the generator. It is like,
so they're not like plugged in.
There's no plug here. It's like these wires are coming from the interior of the machine. Like this is like they were built into it. You can take the time. Like if you really want to, you can take the time to open up the generator, find out where the high capacity wires enter the generator and connect up to like the interior power system and remove them that way. But that will take, again, more time.
Yeah. I'll radio concern and valet, and I'll say, how important is it to you that you have light in the mine. Can you do your work without light?
Concern will radio back to you. I mean, we're finding our way. It's just going to take us some time to follow the maps. We have a general layout, but like we said, we never made it past the defenders before, so this is still our first time seeing it in person. Having the lights on would be a boon, of course.
Sure. All right, that makes sense. Copy that. So, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
And then, I'll try to do that. I'll open up the generator and see if I can sort of rewire things in there. Only if it seems like I'm doing a task that I can undo when we leave. Meaning I can rewire everything back the way it was before.
Okay. That will be a pilot check.
Okay. Is it like a risky pilot check or anything like that?
It is not risky, but it is difficult. So I'm going to add a D6 of difficulty to your roll.
Okay. I can use hack or fix as one of my triggers. I also might make an argument for take control.
From what I understand of take control, it's a bit more of a like taking control of a situation kind of effect.
I mean that could. So it's use force, violence, presence of will, direct action to take control of something.
Yeah, that's something not concrete, the situation.
Like an object someone is holding. You could take control of someone's gun or key card they have on their person.
This is like socially taking. Yeah, this is socially taking control or situationally taking control. The generator doesn't know or care that you exist, right? You cannot. Your force, violence, or presence of will does nothing to change the situation.
All right, so but hack and fix should be fine.
Hack and fix is the thing that I'm seeing for you that looks like it applies to the situation. Yes.
Okay, so difficulty 1. Hack fix.
So okay. Tell me what you're trying to accomplish.
So opening up the power generator and looking at the wiring. And just trying to rewire it so that the wires leading to the high capacity cables aren't connected to the power source.
Okay, so you've named your goal. I'm going to determine what the consequence for failure here is. The consequence for failure is you can do this, but if you cannot do it skillfully, it will not be something you can turn back on remotely when you leave. You'll have to do the hard work of like manually rethreading the wires and stuff, and it'll just be on as you're leaving.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
All right. We've determined which trigger is activated, and I've given you a difficulty.
All right. One difficulty. Let's see what we get. 15.
Nice. So you roll a 14 plus 2 minus. Oh, you only rolled 1 on the difficulty, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do perfectly okay here. You succeed. You kind of you do have to take your time here. So tell me if this kind of lines up with what you're thinking. You'd probably get out of your mech here, right? You're grease monkeying
this is precise
right?
Work.
You kind of like how do you get out of your mech? Like what's the system by which you lower yourself out of the director's cut?
The director's cut has a hatch on the underside of the mech. So it just sort of lowers the mech on its legs. And then the hatch opens up and lowers me down kind of like on a platform to the ground, and I just step off.
Okay.
And it's just waiting there. And when I get back in, I'll step back on that platform and it'll raise me back into the mech
And yours is kind of like a multi-pedal kind of like walker style mech, right? So it kind of like lowers down and it kind of like you just fall out of the bottom of it, basically.
Chuck in chat said fireworks go off as Astro's lowered down. That doesn't happen, but that's a really good idea. I should add like sparklers, pyrotechnics.
What
I
have
should
I
be
done?
like silhouetted by a spotlight as I get lowered down. The final countdown should be playing on my speakers.
Oh my god!
It lowers down with a curtain that opens when it gets the whole way down.
Todd, I swear, if you actually do that, Eveline's going to disable that first opportunity she gets.
I'm not even joking. I think I'm gonna start adding some of these things into my Mac at some point in my free time. But right now, unfortunately, no theatrics. I just get out of the Mac.
That's fine. When it narratively hurts you, I'm cool with that too. So.
I don't think Astro cares about whether it narratively hurts him, just as long as it looks awesome.
So yeah, you kind of lower down on the platform with like what do you have on you? Like, what kind of tools is Astro using to even accomplish this?
Let me see if there's anything I actually specifically have in my inventory.
Because if you have the same inventory I have for you now, all I see that is kind of like technical here is your subjectivity enhancement suite. You don't really have tools, which makes this slower going. So this is a success. You aren't going to suffer the effects of failure, but it is going to not probably be as fast as you had kind of hoped it would be, because you're going to have to get in there and just with like the maintenance kit that's like bog standard for any mech that has like a screwdriver that's not quite the size you wish it was, and like various like electrical tape and things like that. You're like, I can make this work, but it's definitely not what you wish you had.
Right.
So you get in there, you take off some of the access panels, you start working on the wiring. Luckily, the safety precaution of turning off all the electricity before doing this was taken for you ahead of time. So you don't get shocked or anything.
It's good.
But yeah, these are the kind of high capacity wires that kind of lead up and into the side of the cave wall. You imagine they let out somewhere up top that connects to the turrets themselves. And you tell me, because this is a success, what does it look like you being able to set it up somehow that you can re-enable it remotely after you leave?
Can I have it? Most of the work, just to detach the wiring and stuff, I had to do, like you said, just with my basic kit or whatever. But can I have it then interface with my subjectivity enhancement suite so I can use that to activate it remotely?
So there's an interesting blend of physical and digital here, right? Because you're physically unplugging these wires, and your interface is more of like a software level thing. Right. So you tell me how those two things interact with one another.
Well, even like the most basic electronics and technology usually has some sort of like chip in it that does like basic embedded computing or whatever. Anything as simple as like maybe the generator has an auto shut off or something, it'd require some sort of microchip or something like that. So if there's something like that, I can interface directly with it using the subjectivity enhancement suite and side load like a little program that will activate the turrets when I send it a current.
Okay, so basically what you're telling me is like where the high capacity cables kind of connect to the rest of it. You're loading something in there that is basically like, don't send power this way until I send another signal that like gets rid of the block I just put in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that's a perfectly reasonable way to do this. So you get in there, and once you're down to like the precise level, you're able to kind of hack into the thing, make sure it's all ready to go. You make sure that like you're able to reattach all the service, all the kind of service access panels and stuff without making it look too messed up. All this takes you nothing but time, but like nothing went wrong here and you're good to go. Astro accomplished getting these basically set up to remotely trigger the turrets.
Yeah. And additionally, now I can turn the generators on now and restore light.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Once you get to that point, that's the easy part of all of this. So a little while, you turn it back on, you hear some things spit up, and then you hear the heavy, like the sound of like the heavy kind of like factory electrical lights turning on, where it sounds like a breaker switch is being thrown every time one of them turns on. It's like as like all the high, like the lights that kind of light up the deeper parts of the mine all turn on in stages leading deeper into the mine. You get a call on your comms from Concern that's just saying, yeah, the lights just turned on. Was that you?
Affirmative. Hope that helps.
Yeah, no, this will make things a little quicker. Thanks.
No problem. Additionally, when we leave, I'll be able to remotely activate the turrets. So
perfect.
They shouldn't give us any trouble on our way out.
That's good news. This is looking like a more and more successful mission the further we get.
All right, well, keep me informed of your progress.
Yeah, we'll be up in a bit.
Copy that.
All right, and while all this was happening, what was CHIMERA up to?
Actually, I was kind of interested in helping Ballet and Concern set up the. I assume they're just setting up bombs.
Yeah, they're setting up explosives and structural points and using the information about iridium alum to try and kind of maximize yield and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd like to, give them a hand with that if possible.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what you've been kind of preparing to do. So you head down into the mines. I assume that this happens around when COMET first sets up to start working on the generator. So you head down deeper into the mines. You're just using kind of the work lamps on the front of your mech to kind of get things illuminated. It's dark. It's kind of oppressive feeling. And definitely once you step into the large area that just kind of ziggurat steps down into like a giant basin in the middle, and there are various like paths cut off in different directions, it feels at once familiar to you because you've been on mining planets before and you've kind of worked in tunnels before, but it's set up in a way that just feels a little alien. Like this isn't how you've seen things done before.
I see. Yeah, I guess in part of it's going to be like Evelene taking it in, I guess, a little bit, to like maybe not taking notes per se, but sort of like observing like how they were doing the mining operation just because of her background. She's like, oh, so that's how they do it. I guess that makes sense, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. You do get a bit of an insight here from like stopping to kind of like see how things worked a little bit. You can tell by the techniques they were using to cut channels into the rock and whatnot that they had. Well, you assume as well that they have different tech for mining than your patron did back home. Very obviously, the way MantiCorp does things is a little bit different. And you can kind of tell that by working your way deeper. Can you go ahead and can you tell me how good Evelene would be at determining the effect of something's function based off its design. Like how intuitive is she in that field?
I feel like she has some experience, if only because like a lot of her skill triggers kind of reflect that kind of understanding. Like for example, like building gadgets or fixing things. Like I feel like you need to have some level of understanding in order to be able to do that kind of thing.
So, like, do you think Evelene has a good idea of what the ends, for lack of a better word, like when she's designing something, do you think she has a good idea of what like the end user experience is going to be when she's designing it? Like, do you think based off of how something's designed, she could see how that would affect people?
Or how people would be using it, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like what's when you're designing something, you don't always have completely in mind how it's going to be used. How good is Evelene intuiting like, okay, sure, this is the way it's designed, but in practicality, how's it going to be used at the end?
I think she has a decent understanding because like I think she kind of needed that in order to like one thing I've been kind of chewing on a little bit is like where she got that experience or those skills from. Like obviously when she was a miner on the mining planet, but like I imagine that she was kind of doing this kind of thing leading up to her recruitment with Astro, so she had that kind of skill.
Right.
So like I think like she sees like let's say for argument's sake, she sees a drill off to the side. Like she's gonna be thinking like, okay, like how would they be using that drill for this kind of mining operation?
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So I'm just going to take you at face value for this because I don't think it's interesting to have a role here because there's no real consequences for failure. But basically what you can kind of get by the way they do things here is that it's very obvious by the way the mines are cut, by the tools you see discarded, by the waste product and how it's channeled, and where various like lines lead back to the surface to get rid of like waste rock and things like that this was built to be efficient in the same way that like if you could program a bunch of machines to come in here and do it, that this would be like an easy path. But for people, it's a little dangerous. Evelene, you get the sense that like there are practices that they set up in these mines that would not fly where you came from.
I see. So built more for automation than it would be for
almost
human
like
human passage.
Yeah, and here's what you ultimately get out of this is you see the signs that if this mine was to go on for the next, say, 200 years, they would eventually want to phase people out. Right? Like you can see the signs of where if this mine was to keep being mined in the future, at some point humans wouldn't be a part of it anymore.
There's probably like 1 million OSHA violations.
Yeah, it's very, very much in the and the two things that kind of like trigger it the most for you is like how rock is removed and how tunnels are stabilized is just not safe unless you have something that's doing a predictable thing day after day, like a robot on a track would be doing, right? Like once you, on a lot of these things, if you don't have that kind of perfect predictability, you imagine there's a lot of room for human error would cause more than what is acceptable losses.
I can only imagine there were probably a very large number of accidents on the job.
Yeah, I'd say that you don't see any direct evidence of it, but Evelene probably almost recoils in thinking about it a little bit in the same way that like you have friends and family that did this kind of work and you wouldn't want to see them down here doing this work.
Well, that ain't good.
But you do, you do move deeper down into the mine and Concern and Valet give you the equipment you need to start rigging.
Yeah, I'll I guess I'll start looking for. Now, obviously, this was set up to be efficient, so there's probably not a lot of places where it's designed to fall apart. But I feel like Evelene would be able to point some spots out to set up some good bombs.
Yeah, based off of your previous knowledge and what you've learned so far, you kind of already know how you're going to distribute your explosive payloads.
Here's a dumb question. I know because the question I'm about to ask is something normally you would ask me, but like, does Evelyn know what iridium alum looks like its raw unprocessed form?
I'd say there's no way you got this far without knowing that. I'm sure that in the very least, there was an example of it back in the mining camp you could have seen, or maybe like it's not exactly hidden information so much as it is like the planets that it's on are classified. So the only place you would see it is in like encyclopedias and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like
Gotcha.
you may have seen a picture in a book of it.
Is there any like just chunks of the stuff that's sitting around?
No.
It's
No,
like
there's not a single place where there is a chunk of it set aside. The version of iridium alum that you see is where it is still in active veins that were being mined. The only iridium alum you see down in these mines is the stuff that hasn't been extracted yet. And like very minimal waste product, like dust that might have gotten on other rocks and stuff like that.
I mean, that's sort of what I was getting at, like a vein, but
Yeah,
okay,
you see
cool.
veins, but not like chunks or anything that are sitting around.
How hard would be able to like break off a piece of Kit Kat bar? Break off a piece that iridium alum, just not like huge amounts.
A small chunk of like completely unprocessed iridium
Exactly,
alum.
like a bowling ball amount, like not that big.
Are you using your mech or are you doing it on foot?
I got a mech. Mechs probably do more damage than I would do.
All right, how does your mech try to do that? You tell me your way in. Basically, what are you using to do this?
I got an axe. I probably have used like I would imagine that to some degree we used mechs to do the mining, and assuming that like it's apparent, like I like Evelyn would know, I would not know that like if her axe was sufficient enough to just break off a small chunk, she would do that. I guess that's your call.
Yeah, no, your axe is more than sufficient to break off a small chunk. What I will say is that your axe is a physical thing. So I'll give you two options. You can swing your axe at the wall and try to chunk off a small piece of it. Or you could use one of your activations on your weapon to extend the energy part of your axe, in which case you would just kind of have to push it into the wall to like cut a piece off. So you can either swing and try to chunk a piece off, or you could use one of your charges of your beam axe to literally just shave some iridium alum out of the wall.
And I guess the trade-off would be if I didn't use the activation that like I would fail or damage the axe, or
you don't know what'll happen. You don't know. Remember, we've been rolling a lot recently to see how much you know about iridium alum, and the answer's not much.
I guess it boils down to this: if I use the beam axe and the beam energy ignites, or lack of a better word, sets off the alum, that could be an issue.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I'm not as easier as that may be. I feel like it could be easier to break it off, but if there's a chance of it going off, it's even worse, especially if I'm carrying grenades.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
So actually, before I even do that, maybe I'll like whatever explosives I have on me, maybe put like a good number of yards back out of the way, so in case this does ignite, it's not a concern. And then maybe pick a vein that's particularly small and just do a physical action with no beam activation.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to go ahead. You take the careful action of making sure that all your high grade military explosives are set away from the mining site. And yeah, you take your tactical melee weapon, which is your axe, and you're going to try and chop a piece of the wall off, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, go for it.
Now imagine what would happen if Astro set off the fireworks in the mine, considering what was just said.
Oh my. Okay, this is a basic melee attack, Bob.
I want you to actually. You're not going to miss the wall. I want you to just roll me your kinetic damage, which is a 1d6 plus 2 for the tactical melee weapon. I want to see how much damage you do to this wall.
For those at home, my luck has always never been the greatest, so like I'm already scared already, even if it is a guaranteed hit. I rolled a 6.
I'm at home. Is that for me too?
Yeah, sure. You're just as important as any listener, Jay.
All right. Well, Charles, you get a nice hefty smack on this wall. You rear back, you adjust your aim, and you just slam your axe into the wall. And remember how I was talking about like the main problems with like how the mine was set up and how it's a little bit dangerous is that, you know, the structure that's like holding up the mines isn't really up to code.
I swear to God, is this a cave-in?
Well, you hit the wall so hard with the axe that some of the support structures up the wall and above you give way as you swing at it. How much armor do you have on your mech again?
A lot.
Okay, that's not a number.
I think 2.
2. It's 2.
Okay, well, that's good. Because if you were a person, this would kill you.
Oh, yeah, that's why I wanted to do the mech also.
So I rolled damage for collapse. I just rolled a D3 to see, because it's still just a bunch of rocks and it's not a full cave-in. It's just some of the support structures fall on you, but it did roll a 3. So your armor is able to shrug off some of this. I imagine because you're all spiky, like some of it even impales itself on your armor, but enough of it dents and scratches you that it's going to be a little less functional in future fights. You're going to go ahead and lose 1 HP for this.
That's perfectly fine, because I also just remembered I never repaired after the battle, which I was going to do anyway. That's very true.
Yeah, you're still injured.
Maybe I'll spend a repair cap after this to get that damage back. But
I think that would be wise.
Maybe you should avoid smacking walls again before you do that.
The upside
that's literally my job.
The upside is, CHIMERA, that you did wedge off a piece of the iridium alum vein that was in the wall. You end up with a little bit more than what you would describe as like a bowling ball sized piece. It's more like a torso, like someone's torso worth of rock on the ground.
Sweet. I will add that to my inventory.
Yeah. So you go ahead and pick that up with the additional applications of force and kind of just haul it with you as you move on with the remainder of your job. After this happens, you get a call into your comms a little bit, like I'd say like 2 or 3 minutes later. It's Concern and just says, hey, did anyone else feel that?
Yeah. Sorry, I bumped some stuff in one of the halls and caused a little bit of a small little rumble, but no, everything's good. No
small little cave-in. No need to worry.
Well, it wasn't a cave-in. It was just a bunch of rocks that caused 1 damage, but I'm not gonna.
I bumped it with my axe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just keep your eyes on the prize. Once we get this lit up, we're getting out of here.
Yeah. I'll set up the rest of the explosives and then work my way back.
All right. Perfect. All right, so you take the time, you finish deploying the rest of the explosives. Now, are these so? I want to just remind you and Astro specifically, because you're the two that has access to these right now. There was also the mine layer. That those are different explosives, right? You're going to be using those for other things. You're using the explosives that you brought with you to detonate the mine. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because remember, you escorted basically a small, like, construction hover truck with you that was carrying a bunch of explosives. And that's what Concern and Valet originally, like, intended to rig up the mine with. You also found a bunch of explosives that the mine layer MC had that I just wanted to make sure that you were still aware those exist. I didn't know if you were using any of those for anything currently or not.
I assume that I forget what Heave code subcode name is. That's
Valet. Yep.
Yeah, I assume that Valet was going to use as part of the explosives based on his dialogue last session.
Okay. Well, you're unsure then.
Yeah, I can ask the next time I see him.
Okay. So after,
also,
yes, please.
Sorry, as opportunity. As soon as there's an opportunity to do so, I am going to spend the repair cap to restore my health.
Yeah, so that won't be until you have like a rest where you're actually repairing your mech.
Okay.
So that is not now because you're actively doing stuff. But we will find when you and your team have time for like a short rest, like a short repair time. But that doesn't seem to be now because you guys have kind of like you're not doing repairs. You're not cooling down your mech, right? That's what you would need to be doing to get that.
Yeah, I guess not yet. So,
all right. So after you do that, essentially, you start heading your way back up to the surface. Astro has set up his rigging. What else do you guys want to be doing at this mine?
is there a very clear path out? Because like I don't know if the landmines are still active. I guess we can just go back the way we came without having to worry about setting them off or whatnot. I'm slightly concerned on the way out we'll run into more mines.
Hold on, say again.
I was saying, do we need the? Is there a clear path we can use to leave the mines without setting off any more explosives?
Isn't it fun that mines are the things that you lay on the ground and also the thing you're inside right now?
It goes to my mind. I'm like, how do I word this?
So you're saying, you're worried the bombs are gonna set off some more bombs?
We're gonna walk out and we'll forget the path we took or whatever, and then
I mean,
we'll
you've
walk
got a
into
map,
more landmines.
or at least Heathcote and Valet have a map.
Does that map show where the landmines are?
I mean, aren't they the ones who placed them?
No, there was a
No.
robot placing down mines
Oh,
that I
yeah.
encountered.
Yeah, remember last combat we were running
I
into
forgot about
landmines?
him.
Yeah.
I was
That's what I'm
busy
scared
of. Right.
being a target outside.
Well, is there any way we can scan for them? There is actually, isn't there?
That's correct.
Because there was in combat.
I was going to say, did we not do that earlier?
Yeah, so I'm imagining you guys are actually having this conversation where it's like, okay, we're done. You start talking about what you've completed and how to get out of here.
All right. Let's see if we can scan for landmines, just so we're clear until we're clear of the mine.
Sure.
All right, so yeah, you guys take your time. You to both with Concern and Valet kind of work your way out of the kind of flat kill zone in front of the mine, get to the ridge that you had originally scaled to get there in the first place. And with the kind of time and patience you would have not being shot at by giant mechs with guns, it is not too much of an issue to to, scan, move to make sure that you're not stepping on anything untoward. You make your way back to the truck, and are you doing anything with the truck that you brought the equipment here on?
We should bring. Well, I don't have anything else to do with it. We should just bring it back to the base.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It'd be more suspicious to leave it here, and if anything.
Yeah, I mean, it especially if, they find it and it has no bombs on it, so.
Yeah.
By the way, Dyne, you left already. Did you?
I have already left, yes.
Okay, I thought so. I was just making sure. Yeah, so we'll just take the vehicle back with us to the base.
Okay. And this is a few hours later, so you guys have spent the majority of the rest of this day kind of setting up the mine for detonation and making sure that the equipment's online after the combat this earlier this day. So basically the remainder of your day is setting this up and then getting ready to head back to camp. So we are going to step back over to our other players who had a little bit more kind of giddy up in their get out and kind of jetted off right away. So Rock, right after the combat, you had some very specific goals. Where did you head off to?
Head off back to the mining camp to pick up Jose. Nose?
Nose, yes. Nose tolerant. So, Rock, you are fast, and especially when you don't have to worry about like keeping pace with the rest of your lance. You can kind of like kick into gear a little bit. So I imagine you get there pretty quickly. I'd say, probably in slightly under the amount of time it took to get out to the mine, you get back quicker than that. It is still a little bit later in the day, but it's not quite as late. You get back to the mining camp. What's the first thing you do?
I would try to find. I guess I'd try to contact the oh shoot, what's her name? The leader here.
Rejoice?
Rejoice, is that it?
Joyce, yeah Joyce Lindhall.
Yeah, I'd contact Joyce and just let her know, hey, Rock's here to pick up Nose and head out.
Now remember, they don't really have comms on in this base.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
like, do you actually, like, get out and go find her and stuff? Okay. So, yeah, you arrive in base. You kind of quickly... and speaking of, how do you get out of your mech?
What do you mean?
What does it look like to get out of your mech? Like, the final phase of existence, what's the cockpit like and stuff? Yeah.
A designated area or something, I would just kneel down and then, like, I'm sure the chest would open up and I would just have, like, a little rope thing that I would just get on that would lower me down the rest of the way.
Yeah, so you just kind of, like, hook your foot into it, hang on, lower down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just kind of, like, head out into the base. You find your way quickly to kind of the command center of the mining camp. Rejoice is where you expected her to be. And she is in the middle of a meeting right now, actually. And as you enter, you will see it is Rejoice, and it is Peak Binder, who is in the meeting with her. They are in the middle of discussing payment logistics that you're not quite sure what they're talking about, but you kind of enter like halfway through a conversation.
Okay. I don't interrupt them, so I'll wait.
Oh, yeah. Peak is very obviously reading off of some sort of notepad that he has there. It looks like a clipboard that just has a bunch of papers stapled together on it that's like held down by a clip. And he's going through and he's like, And then the relocation fees all seem like they're exactly where we left them, so there shouldn't be any issue there. I think, I mean, if anything, we have more. And you just see her like nodding along to his report. You see, like, she acknowledges you like swiftly, like as you enter the room, and she just kind of cuts him off once he finishes the last thought. And he notices very quickly afterwards you're there as well. Rock, you're back. Or let me find her again. She has like a southern accent, right? Rock is hard to say. Okay.
Right, rock.
Hey there. I see you got back from the mine. Okay, how'd things go?
Say my name.
Hey, Rock. So you got back from the mines there. How'd it go?
Sorry,
I'm gonna kick you right in the balls, but
yeah, it went as well as could be expected. They're currently setting everything up, and I'm here to move on with the next phase. You said Nose would be here?
Oh yeah, I got him right outside. He'll be ready to go in a second. I told him to stay on standby, so I pulled him out of the work rotation.
What can I expect from him?
He's an excellent engineer. He knows what he's doing. If you listen to him, he'll get you through just fine. He's not combat trained or anything, but he's just an any person like me.
Okay.
There is also some equipment you're gonna need. Remember, I told you the way we kind of deactivated the power plant is we actually removed some systems. It's not like it's trashed. It's just there are things missing, and we know what you need, obviously. So you're gonna have to take that in with you.
Okay. How heavy is it? How much?
We load a few things on a little mobile platform for you. It might slow you down a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's and she explains a few things for you. There are various connectors. One thing is basically like a coolant pack that needs to be like lowered into one of the systems and stuff like that. She explains that it is on a lev carrier outside.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you won't be able to get there quite as fast lugging this equipment.
Yeah, it's fine. All right.
Anything else you need before you get on?
Not that I can think of. No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, once you get things readied up there, just I mean, you'll be playing the waiting game like the rest of us. Hopefully, hopefully time flies. Having fun or not.
I'll just nod, mine seemingly off elsewhere.
All right. Yeah, and she'll just kind of like nod to you, kind of like a, okay, you're good. you can go when you feel like it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I do.
All right, so you head outside. There is a man sitting in a seat off to the side. He is wearing coveralls, kind of like a dark gray or a dark blue kind of coverall situation that has the power plant insignia on it. It's something you would have seen in the power plant while you were doing your investigations in it earlier. He's kind of zipped up. He has like a set of tools next to him. He's wearing a hard hat, and he has on safety goggles.
I'll look around and then back to him.
He like looks at you and stands up and he goes, "Oh, hi. I'm Nose. The boss said that you needed me to help with something. Is that right?"
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
All right. I'm Rock. Hope you don't mind a tight squeeze. The mech's not made for two.
Oh. He it takes him a moment. He processes it a little bit, and then he like smiles. Okay, well, whatever you say, boss.
All right, well, let's go.
Sexual tension.
Nose is a little bit older than you, but not like old in any sense. You peg him at somewhere in his 30s. He is not particularly large. But he has like his dimensions are a little bit broader than he is tall. And you immediately notice as you're kind of like making your way out to your mech to kind of get going, he doesn't have maybe the same kind of expediency that you do. You're kind of like ready to get on with the mission, and he like, shuffles with his hat a little bit, walks back over to his tool set, like picks it up, opens it, checks it, closes it, picks it up, and then follows you. You're kind of like waiting for him at the door by the time he's ready to follow you. All right, I'm good to go.
Has Joyce told you what we're doing?
Oh, yeah, I need to get the power plant set up for you. Is that right?
Yeah. Do you know why?
Oh, yeah, something about blowing up the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was told.
Okay.
He just keeps nodding.
Okay. I start walking towards my mech.
All right, he follows you. As you get to your mech, it has kind of like the cable to get up into it. And you notice immediately he does not understand how to get up there.
That's fine. I'll actually offer, like, do you want to ride on the what is it, a hovered sled or whatever?
Yeah, it's like a carrier lev. He like looks over to it. He's like, that makes sense. I might as well.
Does he seem disappointed? I don't know what to peg on this guy.
No, and that's the thing, is like you're not really sure what he's thinking. It's like the kind of thing where he like nods when he's listening to you and just kind of agrees and then does what you tell him to. But it seems like he knows what he's doing, and Joyce vouched for him, so you're not quite sure.
All right. Well, it is what it is, so I'll get the sled up and start heading my way out there.
All right, so yeah, you activate the sled. You kind of like tether it to the final phase to kind of get going, and you start heading back towards the city. And then
How many? Quick question: how many pieces of equipment are on this?
There are 5 pieces of equipment on the sled. There is a large kind of like cooling system that needs to be slotted back into one of the reactors. There is a few connectors because remember I told you there was like a lot of geothermal stuff going on in this plant that are basically like tubes leading to the like that basically flow a lot of the liquid to the boring machines that kind of like get underground. And then so that's like 3 of the pieces are various connectors. So there's the coolant device, 3 connectors, and the last thing on there appears to be a safety it's like a whole bank of various electronics that basically would have just been taken out of some sort of server. Like you imagine in some sort of server room in the power plant somewhere, there's an entire row of electronics that was just removed.
All right.
So it's just like literally pieces that are missing from the power plant right now. Like you immediately understand that like, okay, yeah, even if I was like the best mechanic or hacker in the world, I would not have been able to get the power plant back online without items like these or replacements for them. And that's why they removed them.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, and then can you tell me between you and Orion together, like where did you guys determine where you're going to rendezvous to head back to the city?
I figured I was gonna head right back to the base camp because I wasn't sure how long it was gonna take him to pick him up, and I wasn't too far behind Rock. Maybe only a couple of minutes. I don't think.
Okay, so
Because Rock left like almost immediately after the battle ended.
Yeah, Rock was gone. Right. Yeah, and you stayed to help clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean the amount of time it takes Rock to get settled and pick up Nose, I'd say you probably arrive right as they're ready to leave. I mean, you guys are pretty synced up at this point.
All right, I'll arrive. I'll be like, okay, Rock, you ready? Ready to go?
Ready to take a sled full of equipment in a bug-infested, horrible wasteland where I could be destroyed at any time to get a reactor back up to get it to explode?
I mean, that's what I said, right?
Kidding? I've got the easy job. I don't have to talk to Torsay and tell her the plan.
Shit. You're right. Well, I
just wave at him and start walking.
You're
Good
right.
luck.
All right, and Orion, you'll notice very quickly that on the Lev sled that is attached to the final phase, there is various electronics and engineering equipment, and a man. Just a guy in like coveralls and like a hard hat and safety goggles, just kind of like sitting
Kicking
on
his feet.
Yeah, sitting off the back of the hover lev, just kind of like kicking his feet in the same way you would like. It's almost like he's sitting in like an open back of a pickup truck with like its tail down that's driving slowly. He's just kind of sitting there like he's tailgating almost, just kind of like looking out at the
He's
expanse.
going for a tractor ride.
Yeah, exactly. He like looks up and acknowledges your mech, and for a moment, like as the Prometheus kind of like the giant hulking power consuming Prometheus kind of like very much funnily kind of like a counterpoint to the very smooth, very angular kind of like modern looking final phase, like lumbers up and joins the caravan. He like looks very like critically and thoughtfully at your mech and like how it's shaped and stuff, and then just starts nodding to himself and then stops looking. Like he just looks back off into the open expanse.
He's just like, yeah, that's a mech.
He's like, it almost looks like he's scrutinizing your mech for a minute, and then once he's done doing that, it's like he's moved on completely. It's like he's closed that chapter of his life and doesn't even care that you're there anymore.
You got a very short attention span.
Seems like.
Dyne just kind of shrugs his shoulders and then just continues on with Rock.
All right, so you guys head into the city. Tell me kind of what your plan is. Like, what's your path forward as you get to the outskirts?
Once we get to the point where we're gonna split, Dyne is just gonna split off and head straight to the ship, unless Rock needs his help with anything.
No, I'm going to. It's not a good way to know ahead of time what's up ahead of me, I don't think.
So here is a benefit I'm going to remind you of, is that because of the scans that you've done on the area, you have one benefit, but it primarily only helps Orion here. And that is, I said, that if you are leaving the city or getting to the spaceport, you do not have to avoid the bugs because you know that path well enough and has scanned those areas well enough that you can do it. It is not a matter of if not, it is how long it takes you. So Orion getting from the outside of the city to the spaceport, you're not going to have a problem there. Rock heading to the power plant, you are going to have to do some stuff to get there unfound.
So about how long is it going to take to get to the power plant?
About an hour from the outside of the city to the power plant.
Can I ask Nosei what does he need parts wise first, and how long is it going to take him to get it in and working?
So he very thankfully does seem like he's been briefed on the operation. He says, well, the parts we have here should be, I think, everything that's missing. I'll have to do some repair work on some things that were just kind of trashed as we left, and that's going to take me a little bit of time. But Joyce also told me that you are going to get some of the stockpiles to help increase the yield as well.
Among other things, yes, I'm worried about our first time going in with this payload. I was considering going in with just you and the first sets of parts we need first. Letting our load get us there quicker.
Yeah, actually, with the stuff I have here and the tools that come loaded into the Lev, I can start working if you want to just get me there. If you can make sure I'm safe when you drop me off, I'd really like that. But as long as I can get to work, you don't need to supervise me or anything. I know what I'm doing once we're in the power plant.
And just to clarify, I mean to take a part or two out of the Lev to get you started, and then make a trip back for the rest of the Lev after I've got an idea for where.
Oh, so we're leaving the Lev here.
Well, it's dangerous to move with it at the moment without knowing what's ahead.
He looks thoughtfully at it. Well, with the tools I have, the thing that I'm going to be able to chew on the longest is getting the cooler back in. So if you can lug the cooler on that mech of yours, and I can just bring some of the tools with me, I won't have the crane that's attached to the Lev, so you'll have to help me by lowering the cooler into the receptacle, and then I can work on it from there. But once you help me out with that, that'll take me a couple hours to get hooked back up correctly.
And it's reasonable that I can move at normal speed with the cooler and
yes, it is. It is just basically a large piece of equipment. What I will say though is that you won't be able to fight as effectively holding it because you will effectively be holding it.
I'll just point out now, my plan is not to fight. At all.
Yeah, I fully expect your plan is not to fight, but I'm saying is, if that is the case, holding this thing and fighting will be awkward, so you'll have to do something else with it if that's the case.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the safest way to go forward, I think, so I'm going to do that. I'll bring him either into the cockpit or up. No, into the cockpit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was something that I got some more information about. So there is specifically a system in the game that allows you to have more space in your cockpit to carry extra stuff in it. Mm-hmm. So trying to put extra stuff in your cockpit, that if you haven't taken that system, is penalized a little bit. I know that someone, it might have even been you, picked up CHIMERA previously. In the old GMS mechs that you had in the first mission. You can get Nosei in here, but if you enter combat and have him in the cockpit with you, there will be difficulty added to various roles.
Sure.
But it will be safer for him in the cockpit. You are getting something from that, and he is significantly safer in here with you.
Yeah.
All right. As long as you're cognizant of all the things that are going on, you can absolutely start this.
That's what I do.
All right. So you pick up the cooler. It is interesting in shape. It almost reminds you of a large mechanical pine cone. There are various flaps all along the side that like apparently slot into things. It kind of like lowers down to a tip at the end, and the top side of the pine cone, there's like a single like large bar handle that goes across in either an X or a plus depending on how you're looking at it, that is almost like a handle that like a crane, like those cranes that have like the fingers or whatever at the end, almost like that was meant to grab onto something like this, but you can just as easily like grab that handle with your mech and hold it by that.
Okay.
So that's that, you're basically carrying it like a big briefcase shaped like a acorn or like a pine cone.
Okay.
So you head off towards the power plant. You don't have to figure out where it is. You luckily already scouted that area, know how to get to it. And Orion, just to check in with you, you are heading directly to the spaceport. Is that right?
I am correct.
Okay. Now, tell me how you're getting there. Like, we know you're going to get there safely, but just because this is going to be the thing you're doing for like the next hour or two, can you tell us what it looks like you getting there?
So previously, I was the one who had like found the tracks leading out of the city, so I knew the path. So I would be taking like not necessarily the main road, but like following the path that I had tried to find the path that I had taken before, since I had already seen it and knew it was safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try to find that path, which was like skirting on the outskirts of the city, and just walk straight to the space station.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you're able to walk that line pretty effectively. You kind of know what to expect, and because you know what all the alternate paths are, when things inevitably do pop up that are kind of like changes in your plan, like you see that there's a little bit of like hive activity ahead on a street that you were planning on using, luckily you're able to just kind of stop very calmly, like change and use an alternate pathway. That's why it takes you a little bit of time. You can do it safely because you know like, oh, okay, this road, no go, but I'll just take the alternate path. So you get there safely. It just takes you a little bit of time. All right, so let's pop over to Rock, who is actively engaging on this espionage mission. What does it look like for you to try and get lugging this big power core and using the final phase, trying to get to the power plant?
It's a lot of scanning and a lot of like moving from cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I have the infiltrator trait, so I can like hide like in open sight as long as I'm like moving from place to place, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of relying on that a lot. Yeah, I mean it's really just like a lot of that, just playing it careful, trying to map out if there are any insectoids around or not, and where they are, if there are, and going around them.
So in this, if we were framing this scene for like a movie or something, this would literally look almost like a person doing it, right? Like that's kind of how the final phase works, right? It's like instead of using like corners of buildings to like peek around, you're using entire buildings because you're a mech, right? So like it's kind of like showing you going up next to a wall, peeking around the corner, you see like the light shine in the eyes of your mech for scanning, and then we just see kind of like a blur as you like kind of like pass through the open space to the next cover spot. And yeah, it goes pretty quickly. This is something you're good at. This is something you're efficient at, and the final phase gets you closer quick. Because of all these things, I'm going to give you accuracy on the roll I'm about to ask you to do. So you are still going to have to get there. And even though you're an excellent infiltrator, there is something to be said about critical mass. There are so many creatures infesting this city, and this city is pretty big, but it's not has enough room for all the creatures that were outside big. So it does get crowded in some areas. Sometimes the terror flies are out, sometimes the nempacks are out, and they're just in like very inconvenient places. And as efficient as you are, there's something to be said for there's just so many of them. So I'm going to need you to make me a roll to show that you are able to get past all of these things.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume that get somewhere quickly. Is this a pilot skill, right?
Yeah. We're going, even though you're doing this in your mech, we're going to assume that this is like a pilot skill check. But because we're using your mech, the thing I'm going to give you here is because you have Infiltrator, I'm granting you accuracy on this roll.
Okay. Then I'll use the get somewhere quickly. Can you use multiple triggers? You can, right?
You can use multiple triggers, yes, as long as they are all applicable, and the addition of multiple ones narratively makes sense that it's kind of multiplying your advantage, right? Like so if it makes sense for you to be up from 2 to a 4 because both these things work really well together, then absolutely you can use both.
All right, get somewhere quickly, of course, and then I'd like to make the push for word on the street, asking Nose, like, hey, you know this area a little bit better than I do. We can't go this way. Is there another way to go that would be helpful? Kind of thing, like getting the news or hearsay from a particular source. Got
you. Okay, well, very obviously, get somewhere quickly. No debate there. Word on the street is going to be hard because it depends on if Nose has enough information to give you a +2 to getting there. He has to be advantageous in some way for this to work. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Is Nose the kind of person who would have the insight that would help you here? Here's what I'm going to say, Rock. Surprisingly, he is. You almost aren't expecting it. He's very much kind of like do. He's almost not paying attention to what you're doing. It's almost like he just expects you to do your job so that he can do his job, and he's not really even paying attention to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But you get to a point where you're just like, my God, this is just annoying. Like, it's one of those things. It's like those stealth levels in video games where it's not so much hard to read the patterns. It's just annoying. There are so many of them, and you have to do so many timings, right? You're just like, ugh, right? And you turn to him and you're just like, listen, you've lived here. Like, what do you say to him?
I mean, just that. Like, is there another way I can go around? Like, is there any back street or, this is a mech we could go over if we need to. Mm-hmm. Like, do you have any insight to get us there quickly?
And I think that's the thing you get from him is very much like surprisingly, you find that he thinks about things a little bit differently. So much that you were trying to like map out a path to get there, and were worried that you were going to be seen. Like if you tried to fly, like that's the big danger. If you try to fly above, that you're going to get spotted, right? Like easily. And he's just like, well, I mean, he just kind of gives you like a couple of names of buildings, and you don't know what he's getting at first. He's like, well, I mean, they're all tall buildings that kind of like lead there. They just look like a big wall. If you can get on top of one, you can just go from one to the other and you'll be right at the front door. And you kind of look at the kind of skyline of the city, and he's right. Yeah, if we you're gonna have to find the opportunity to fly up on one side where no creature is looking at that side of the building. But if you can get on top of the building before anyone looks at it, you can kind of just go from top of one like small skyscraper to another, 3 buildings along, and then basically come down on top of the energy plant.
Well, I have not only the boosters that let me fly, but also mag clamps, so I can clamp onto the sides of the buildings to help climb up it too. Yeah.
Narratively, this is pretty good for you. I'm going to give you the two triggers, and you have advantage because of Infiltrator.
All right.
before you roll, I will say that this is a risky roll. You're not going to have any difficulty on this roll, but it is risky because these creatures are dangerous. So 10 to 20 is a success with problems.
Okay. All right. That's 25.
Perfect. With the various bonuses you have, you rolled a 6 on the advantage, so Infiltrator really is what took you over the edge here.
What a professional.
Yeah, the Infiltrator is really what kind of got you there. The final phase, and this is the first mission that you've really gotten to stretch your legs a bit with the final phase, is it really leans into the things you kind of had hoped it would. The combination of the mag clamps and your boosters and your infiltrator systems, you are the size of a mech, but you feel no bigger than rock doing this, right? You just feel like a sneaky little sneaky snake get into the power plant.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you just kind of skirt along the tops of the buildings, and by the time you get outside the power plant, you will notice that there are no creatures just outside of the power plant like you had seen before. They didn't place any of the resonators near the power plant. So after you get kind of like past the industrial district where they did put some of them, there's just it's like, I'm sure that some wander through here sometimes, and there's evidence of that, but you're in a pretty safe spot to get down.
Okay. Then I'll do that. I'll help him get going and get the coolant system where it needs to be and everything first.
Okay. And you kind of get to the other side of the plant from where you'd entered before. Remember the last time you were here, you kind of got out of the final phase and got down on foot to kind of explore the offices. He kind of directs you to around the back where some of the the outboard kind of like outside ancillary buildings are, and he directs you to basically like what the equivalent of the heavy machinery entrance, like the entrance he would have used if he had to bring like a small crane in here to drop off the coolant system. And you work your way into a room that it almost looks like a giant you know how like indoor pools almost like feel weirdly echoey and tight in the ceiling, like almost because they expect you to be in the pool for a fair amount of the time. It's almost like the ceilings are a little low if you're standing outside of the pool. That's what it feels like to be in a mech in here. It's almost like your mech is hunched over a little bit walking through, because in front of you there's an area where it almost like domes down a little bit, and you can see in the very center of this area that domes down there is a circular area that has been removed from the systems that looks exactly like what you have to fit for. He's like, well, that's it right there. If you can lower it down in, I'll give you actually why don't you let me out of here first? It'd be better if I could direct you on the ground.
Yeah, and I'll do that. Let him out, help him get it in and everything.
Yeah, and he directs you. You kind of lower it in. He like, as you get closer, he like asks you to slow it down a little bit, and you have to like spin it a little bit so that you can like lower it into the grooves correctly. But once you've done that, you're kind of off to the races. Nose gets out his various equipment that you had kind of like stowed alongside of your mech, and you just kind of like set it down for him. He opens up various boxes, and you just see him get to work. He almost like immediately becomes oblivious to everything else happening around him once he gets down into the system and starts working on reattaching the coolant.
All right. I let him know that I'm gonna head back out and get the rest of his stuff.
What's that?
I'll be back. Stay safe.
He gives you a thumbs up and then gets back to work.
All right. Yeah, and I head back and get the rest of it then.
All right, so it is significantly easier, and you have some tricks up your sleeve to get there now. So it just is no roll at this point. You know how to get to the sled and back, and nothing has changed since the last time you do it. So you did it, and you lost some baggage along the way. So yeah, you kind of get back on top of the buildings, make your way there. Rock, as you are heading alongside the top of the buildings, heading back to the sled to pick up more equipment, we're going to pop back over to Orion to check in on him heading to the DBC.
Poor bastard.
Orion.
I know.
You arrive outside the spaceport, the familiar docking zone where the DBC has landed. Almost this large, almost stadium-shaped area. It's kind of like an open ring around which like the DBC landed in. That is kind of like open to the ground and open to the sky, so that it can kind of like take off and land as necessary. So I imagine you just kind of like go up and over the station, right? Because your mech can't go through the hallways. So you kind of go up and over, making your way to the pit the DBC kind of landed in. And what do?
I radio Torsay to open the dock so I can get in.
All right,
Get in the ship.
The kind of like side hatch opens up to the mech storage on the lower decks of the DBC.
Yep, I go in and I'm like, all right, here we go. This is not going to be fun.
All right.
As I get the mech in the ship and just kind of dock and get out.
Sure. Yeah, you kind of land. You head back through the familiar hallways of the DBC. You've been away a couple of days now, so it's like you've been away from home a little bit, and you're like looking at the amenities here, and you're like, maybe I should get a sandwich or a drink before I leave again. You head upstairs, and you find Torsay in the cockpit. Actually, she's kind of like at her kind of like backup pilot / support terminal that she usually sits at when she's on the bridge, getting ready for doing various things. She just kind of like spins her chair around as you get to the bridge, and just goes, "You're back. Where? Just." It's been so long since I heard from you guys. How is everyone, and what's going on?
I'm gonna say, first of all, we're okay. Second of all, you're probably not going to entirely like the story that follows. And then I'm going to give her like a brief overview of everything that's happened.
Okay.
How we found the refugees, well, not refugees, but you know what I mean. We found them. The decisions that we made, and what our plan is. And then I kind of wait to see what her reaction is.
Because the last time you talked to her was a short conversation you had from the mining camp. So some of this is information she's had to chew on a little bit, but with no extra context. What new have you added to the story post that conversation?
I believe at the time, we had not decided whether or not we were going to follow along with their plan. It's been a little while. I'm just trying to think.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was before we had made that decision, and I think it was before we had met with the person Rock was supposed to find, whose name I cannot remember.
Oh, yes. That was before that you guys kind of had your face-off with Jean.
Yes, with Jean.
Okay.
So it was before any of that, I believe.
Okay. How much do you tell her about, like, Jean and Rock and Astro, like, getting into, like, a a stand-up hold-off with like a dissenter and stuff. Like, how much of that info do you get into?
I would tell her that we had that Rock and Astro had encountered a dissenter and that Rock had managed to subdue her, but I would not reveal who Jean was.
Okay. So she's just kind of like thinks about it. She's like silent for a bit. She like nods a little bit. She like rubs her eyes a little bit. Okay, so that makes sense. You guys want to help the civilians here. Okay, I've had a few days to come to terms with that. Sure. What's the plan, though? What are we doing here? How are we gonna get these people out of here?
So at this point, I would reveal what I know about their escape plan, because I feel like she has to know in order for our escape plan to work.
Okay.
Right?
How does that go though? Like what do you tell her? Because like I need to know what information she receives and how it's delivered, because she doesn't know any of the plan yet.
I would basically tell her what I know.
She doesn't even know when MantiCorp is supposed to show up, like when the rescue ship's supposed to arrive, what you want her to do. And like, I need to know what you tell her, because actually you guys have been saying like slightly different things over time. So I need to know what she thinks the plan is.
Okay. So I would tell her the timeline for the rescue ship, our plan to board it, our plan for her to transmit the data from the disk that I have, and for her to basically transmit it and then get the fuck out. Which would probably be 2 or 3 days. Did we ever discuss when she would be leaving? Like probably a couple of days before MantiCorp is scheduled to arrive.
She would have to leave before MantiCorp got to orbit.
Right.
And what we had discussed is that MantiCorp is probably arriving. Like when they told you, they said MantiCorp would be arriving in about 2 days, and the evacuation ship would be arriving in 7 days.
Okay.
And that it would take time from the ship arriving at the gate at the edge of the system to it getting to orbit.
Right. So basically, she would have to be in orbit and deliver the data by tomorrow, then. Right? Yeah.
That's what it's starting to seem like,
if MantiCorp is approximately arriving in 2 days, then she would have to basically, as soon as she gets confirmation that MantiCorp received the data, she would have to be gone. So, yeah.
And what does be gone look like? That's what she asked. She goes, what does be gone look like? Where do I go? Where do I meet you? What's the rendezvous? How do I get you guys back?
So I would bring up like a general, like a map of the system that we're in. And Dyne's, unlike most of the other crew, Dyne has kind of been like a mercenary for most of his life. And while he doesn't know like every area, he's probably been in most of the systems around here. And he knows it well enough that I could reasonably believe he would know a safe location for her to kind of hide out, that the ship would be able to that the rescue ship would be able to take us to.
So, do you tell her to leave system to go to an adjacent system then? Is she going to be in this system? Or is she going to meet you?
That she would not go beyond the gate.
Okay, so you want her to go somewhere within this system, yes, that is protected from MantiCorp finding her.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have like any ideas of where that would be?
But by the way, Jeremy, I just remember us talking a little bit about it before, like where the ship would go. And one thing like we know is like I don't think the ship has to go like too far. Because it's really hard to find a spaceship unless you're really trying to
look for it. Yeah.
So if they see the ship go and they just assume like it left, they're not going to be scanning everything. So I just remember
it's a big place.
Yeah. So I just remember we mentioned that. I thought we had mentioned something about like it hiding behind an asteroid, but I don't know if that officially happened.
I don't think that's entirely necessary. Dyne would probably give her like a general area in the system that he feels is relatively safe.
Okay, so let me give you guys this then. So, you want her to transmit data to MantiCorp in like quote unquote good faith, being like, here's some data that we were able to get from your operatives that were here before, right? As if you were still on their side, right?
Yes.
Like the option that kind of like shows up for me, and I don't want to like put this like I don't want to tell you that this is the plan, but I wanted to see if like this is where you were going with this, is like, do you want her to just transmit that data to MantiCorp, and then as MantiCorp gets closer, have her leave orbit as if she's heading towards the gate, right? Because any ship that would normally need to leave the system would usually leave via the gate. Like,
right.
Are you just going to like make it seem as if that's where the DBC is headed?
That makes the most sense to me. Maybe not go through their ships, but like around them.
Yeah, but plot a general course towards the outer area of the system.
Yeah.
Okay. She just kind of like shakes her head and says, "Can you trust these people to get you back to me?"
Well, at this point, we're so deep in this, I don't think we have that much of a choice.
And what about? I mean, I'm fine with us helping the miners on the planet get away, but like we incurred quite a bit of damage and repair and fuel getting here. Is how are we going to pay for all this?
Well, for one, because of what we're doing, the noblesse oblige will definitely owe us one. And for two, I have a feeling that we're going to be paid partially in iridium. Which...
And then we're going to have to find a way to sell that?
Oh, I'm sure we can find a way. Trust me, there are people willing to buy it. And not just the corporations.
What about Ren?
That is a tough one. And I don't have an answer for you.
I mean, they as good as offered their station as a safe harbor, and they said that they would offer, various jobs to us and stuff. Do you think, we can work with them on this side of things? I mean, we already had some bad relations, but I think this is a step further than a feud with Terratella.
Oh, well, getting on the bad side of any corporation is going to lead to something like this, unfortunately. That's not to say that we can't work with Ren in the future, but I think staying at the station might be a little bit more difficult. We'll have to figure something out. Oh, creating some bridges and then burning others. Or burning them all.
What about this Noblesse affair? I mean, I've been looking them up, and they're other than some reports about people who've hired them and from what I can tell, mostly happy with the results. They're ghosts. I don't know where they came from. I don't know who they are, what kind of group they are, who they were before this, where they got their members from. They just showed up.
And this is Jeremy forgetting. Do we know the answer to any of those questions aside from they work like in the Outer Rim?
No, I don't think you have gotten any of those answers.
Okay, that's what I thought.
In retrospect, we did kind of just accept all that while questioning it, which is probably a bad call, but we made our bed at this point.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be sleeping in it, and probably on fire.
I know I'm not fire. I know I'm not there, but just this is Chuck talking.
Getting in good with the Noblesse affair, though, wasn't our only motive.
Yeah.
No.
I think we more just figured like this is the right thing to do, and this will be our compensation prize at the end of it. Is at least we have an ally.
I have
this is a poor business decision, but the right moral decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's about par for the course for us. I have a sneaking suspicion that Ren is not entirely above board as it is, so like they might be kind of to some degree cool with this, but I'm making a lot of assumptions there.
Well, that's something that we get to play out if you guys survive this mission. So,
yes,
yeah, we'll see where that bridge leads. Yeah.
To Ren, I would just respond. Well, I can't really say much one way or the other about the Noblesse affair. I have this our decision right now felt like a poor business decision, but a more of a moral decision than anything.
She does the raise one eyebrow and look at you like examiningly type thing. She just like looks at you and goes, "You said that seriously enough that I know you mean it, but I can't tell if Astro's rubbing off on you."
Oh, don't worry. If I think Astro's done something stupid, I'll let him know.
Well, I guess the life of a drift tech working for a group of unscrupulous mercenaries who are on the bad side of some megacorps is a romantic life to lead, so I got that going for me, which is nice.
Look on the bright side. Maybe we'll be able to get some black market tickets for your next concert.
All right, well, don't you losers do anything that gets us into any more fire. We're in enough of it as it is.
Oh, any more fire, and I think Evelene would have a heart attack.
She nods agreeingly.
I'll hand her the data.
All right, she takes a look at it. She's like, "Okay, I'll load this into the system so that we can send it across the encrypted channels. Is there anything I need to know about this before I send it?"
Oh, the data, I would just tell her what we had found on the, basically what the data entails. The whole point of the data is to, control their movements for one way or another, because we have to survive until the ship arrives. And if we know how they're going to move, we can, survive that much longer.
All right, I gotcha. She takes the various UMDs from you, puts them in a little stack, nice little stack of UMDs. And as she spins around to like look back at her terminal and like start getting things ready, hey, when did you say MantiCorp was supposed to get here?
2 days? Don't tell me.
She like leans to one side and you can see over her shoulder. It looks like they just arrived at the outskirts of the system.
Oh, crap.
Well, our plans just got moved up tremendously.
You just hear aloud as you can visibly see the form of her deflate in her chair. And as we zoom out, we see as the viewers, if not the players, we see the ships of MantiCorp warp in as the gate does not open on the edge of the system. They have arrived here in much a similar way as you had, arriving a full day earlier than is planned. Seemingly, their forward scouting ship is equipped with a system jumping device, and MantiCorp is on its way. All right. Well, that is going to be the end of the first half of tonight's session. And when we come back, we'll see if you guys are able to finish up and put into gear the last steps of your plan to get ready for their arrival.
Nice cliffhanger.
Oh, man.
Well, I guess we don't have to worry about downtime activities at this point.
Maybe. We'll see. I have some ideas. We'll go over them in the next session.
Oh, no.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.